back to the weird and the wonderful with strange bones. That's me. A channel where we are going to talk about all things mysterious, some things slightly insane, and a number of things that, perhaps even without being completely weird, are nevertheless very, very interesting. Welcome. And as we progress, as you may well remember, we are on to the topic of strange archaeology. And we've been looking at things such as the pyramids, and not just the ones in Egypt. Cheers. There are a great many pyramids around the world, in fact, far more than most people even realize. And the real question is, why pyramids? What seems to be the reason for pyramids? So many different cultures, so long ago that surely they can't have influenced each other at all. And yet everybody seems to have come up with the idea of pyramids. What gives? So to start off with, we're going to have a look at one or two of the strange number of pyramids around, and then we're going to focus on tonight, because we can and because we like that, specifically the Egyptian ones. In our last live, we touched on the South American pyramids, which really were quite interesting and, of course, raised a lot more questions than answers. Countries and cultures that seemed... We do love to have all kinds of difference of opinions and comments and discussion on the matter. Remember, though, to like, share, subscribe, give lots of gifts, and support the channel, because that's what we need to keep things going. And with that said, let's do a very, very fast overview on pyramids. So we all know about the Egyptian pyramids. Absolutely we do. And fair enough. But where else are there pyramids? Well, pyramids exist on every inhabited continent in the world. That's a lot of pyramids. We know, of course, Egypt, and we might even know of certain Nubian structures in Africa. We know about the Mesoamerican pyramids, such as Chichen Itza. There are the ziggurats in Middle East, like Iraq, which are pyramids. There are pyramid structures in China, Cambodia, Russia, Greece, so I believe those ones are underwater. We have all kinds of pyramids all over the place. And it seems that at the drop of a hat, somewhere, somebody's going to build a pyramid. Now, what exactly were these used for? Now, the different theories that you can get are pretty various, and the mysteries around the pyramids range from the very serious archaeological, as to how were they made, why were they made, what they were for. And they go on their extreme other side to the really quite crazy in the conspiracy theory world, which in some ways can be cumulated, if you will, with the theories of the famous David Icke, who is an absolutely fascinating character, but quite pyramids and therianthropes. So stick around. This is going to be a good one. So, on the African continent, Egypt has over 100 pyramids, which include the ones we tend to know about, like the Great Pyramid of Giza, but many others, and there are certain strange connections to do with the timeline there as well. Huge thanks for the likes there, Purple Panda. That is very, very kind of you. I always appreciate that. We know in the Sudan we have the Nubian pyramids, hundreds more than in Egypt, which were more narrow than the Egyptian pyramids, steeper, but nevertheless, pyramids. In Mexico, of course, the things like the Temple of Kukulkan at Chichen Itza, and the pyramids found in Peru, Guatemala, Honduras. On the Asian continent, China, more than 100 pyramids located there. Cambodia at the Prang at Kokir, which was more a temple than a tomb. Iraq and Iran, the ziggurats, like the great ziggurat of Ur. Europe, in Italy, the pyramid of Cestus in Rome. And of course, the possible sunken pyramid in Greece, the pyramid structures in Russia, all kinds of pyramids. So it seems that if you wanted to build in the ancient world, the way through was to build pyramids. However, tonight is Egypt. So, grab your coffee. I did. Get yourself comfy. Grab a snack. And let's see what we can find out about the pyramids of Egypt. Now, the ones that we generally know about are the really, really fancy ones. They were built for, it is generally understood, tombs for the pharaohs and their consorts during the Old and Middle Kingdom periods. At least 138 pyramids have been discovered. Approximately 80 were built within the Kingdom of Kush, that is now the Sudan. The pyramids at Saqqara, west of Memphis. There are step pyramid structures like the mastaba, attributed to the pharaoh Anedjib, which may predate the pyramid of Djoser. We're talking around 2,600 years BC, Third Dynasty. It is generally considered that that pyramid is the world's oldest monumental structure of dressed masonry. In other words, shaped specifically from cut stone and built the way you would build a stone house type build. Now, in Egyptian, just in case this matters, a pyramid is a mirror. Now, what exactly the meaning of mirror is unclear. It is generally preceded by three other signs used as phonetics, and it only references the built object itself. By comparison, similar architectural terms become compound words like a temple, which is perka, which is a compound of the words for house and soul. So it may have reference back to the word benben, which is the mound of land that arose out of the abyss in the Egyptian creation myth. So out of the chaos of waters, the land arose, and thereon life became possible. Now, the relationship between Mir and Benben is linked by the capstone architectural element in pyramids and obelisks, which was named Benbenet, which is the feminine form, oddly enough. You would think that for a structure as pointy and possibly phallic as that, it would be masculine, but that is not the case. Now, the structures developed as early as 4700 BC in the Saharan region of Niger, and this indicates that the megalithic monuments in the Saharan region may have served as antecedents for the mastabas and pyramids of ancient Egypt. So they were building them in the area way, way before the pyramids that we generally know about. They were absolutely starting off pretty early. Now, one of the great mysteries in regards the timeline of the building of the pyramids is the very, very first ones, as you can imagine. Excuse me, my eyes are a little off. They were not very good, and they got better as things went along. But then suddenly, around the times of the really great pyramids, they became phenomenally good. Just after this, however, it seems they completely lost the ability to build as fantastically as this, and they went back to building the crappy ones. And you might ask, why? Now, there are two sets of answers. The first set of answers is from serious archaeologists who absolutely will explain that it had to do with the culture surrounding and all of the rest of that. Mokwetsi, hello to you. You are an amazing person. Welcome back. Absolutely missed having you on the lives. I do hope you will enjoy this one because it's all about the pyramids, and I know you like those. It's definitely been far too long, sir. Are you in fine form and are you surviving the weather? I believe that you had a really, really good view the other night of the blood moon. A nice clear sky. Sadly, apparently it was very, very visible for us here, but it was so overcast we saw nothing, which was very disappointing. I really wanted to see it. And not only was it a blood moon, in fact, there was also an eclipse, which is really quite amazing. And to my vast jealousy, a mate of mine in Cape Town sent me a photograph that he took, and it really was spectacular. So you must let me know if you had a look at it. Strange celestial happenings like that are rare and well worth the looking thereof. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. It shows us just how amazing nature can really be. Now, we know that the importance of the pyramids seems to have grown as they developed. And then after a certain amount of time became less important as things went along. So that may have some connection to the timeline, as it were. Now, the first historically documented Egyptian pyramid is attributed by Egyptologists to the third dynasty pharaoh Djoser. Now, they often credit his vizier Imhotep as the architect. The dynastic Egyptians themselves um, did not credit him with either designing the pyramid or the invention of the stone architecture. It was first built as a square mastaba-like structure, which as a rule were known otherwise to be rectangular, so strange right off. Yes, we are. So, for those of you who don't know, just to add to the story, we've been doing different things, going around the world, looking at countries and cultures and the weird stuff. And weird is what we do on this channel. But we started with the very weird. We did aliens, which was great. We thank you to Mardi for the likes there. Aliens was great. After Aliens, we also went and looked at ghosts. We looked at cryptids. We looked at curses, which was particularly good. And then we did a whole run on witches, which was fascinating and quite revealing about viewpoints on what those things might be. But we have moved along now onto strange archaeology and architecture. Things that don't make sense that have been found. And of course, it's almost necessary, I suppose, in a way that you have to start with the pyramids because they are one of the biggest mysteries, both in size and in strangeness. So, right off bat, yes, you missed all of the witches, um, which is kind of sad there. Um, And thank you so much. It's really, really nice to know that you enjoy seeing this grow. It's definitely been a wonderful thing. So, haunted places is fascinating, and I'm sorry you missed witches. However, an interesting point that you might like is the fact that it seems no matter which topic is the actual topic, we always seem to connect to all the previous topics in some manner or form. And you will see we even get to do this in certain ways with the Egyptians as well, which is fascinating. My eyesight really does. Pugsto, thank you so much for the share there. I do appreciate. So every time we come across something really weird and supernatural, it either connects to aliens or witches or both, or ghosts or also both, or curses or also both. And of course, um, when it comes to the pyramids, it's all of the above and more. So we will definitely briefly touch back on aliens and witches and curses and more when it comes to the Egyptian pyramids because it absolutely connects to all of it. Um, whether or not really it does is another question, but we got to love a little bit of conspiracy. Um, and we've found some good ones with this. I've got to be honest with you. How do you guys feel about reptilian aliens? Mark Goldbridge, is that you? If you're referring to me, I am not Mark Goldbridge, though I might look like him. I don't know. I've never met him. Nevertheless, I'm also not Martin Wickers, but I could be, if you ask nicely. We'll see. As we progress, uh, thank you so much, Harry Salter. I do appreciate. So the pyramids were built with a crapload of effort. Yes, now hold on to that thought, Mokwetsi, because we will have to talk about the famous David Icke, because our Egyptian reptilians spread around the world and got involved in all things, including politics and Hollywood, apparently. So you're dead correct in your comment there, and there is so much more to unpack. And the further down the rabbit hole you go, the weirder it becomes. So there is no doubt that there's a lot to talk about in that regard. Now, as these pyramids got built, they got really quite good, and they peaked, I would say, with the Great Pyramids, which nowadays are broadly stepped. But originally they weren't. From what we understand, they built the stepped pyramid and then covered the outside with white limestone and capped it with gold. Now, the problem was limestone does not bear up well. So the outer sheath disappeared. And of course, you leave gold hanging around in the desert too long and somebody's going to nick it. So the capstones pretty much went as well, which is kind of sad. Tomorrow is Morocco Day. What's Morocco Day? Tell us and I'll announce it. Go for it, Pugster. So originally, when you went and looked at the Great Pyramids of Giza, what you would see were these massive, blindingly white pyramids with a golden tip, which really would have been astoundingly impressive. And sadly, of course, that eventually disappeared, leaving a very, very impressive still structure as we know them today. I must admit, they must have been pretty damn impressive back in the day. So, an incredible set of building right there. We also know, of course, that the blocks of stone that the pyramids were constructed of were massive, which again is suitably concerning because I don't know about you. Okay, most of us have tried this, especially if you live near the coast. Have you ever tried riding a bicycle on sand? Thanks, Emma Quetzi. It's damned hard. Trying to do anything on sand, shifting something is tough. Now, if you're moving a 6-ton to 10-ton block of stone, you're gonna struggle. Let's be fair. And that's even before you've managed to actually start building the damn thing. So somehow they actually did building, but it must have been either a massive amount of effort, which gives us several archaeological theories, or, and this is the interesting part right there. Hey, Illy. If it's going to be one of the other conspiracy type theories, you either had some pretty serious magic, alien help, or strange psychic skills. And of course, we will talk about all of them, though they do get weird, be warned. But in that regard, the design was generally believed by most serious archaeologists that this was supposed to be like a stairway for the soul that the deceased pharaoh could use to ascend to the heavens and thus to the gods, and therefore, as is proper, get a proper decent spot in the afterlife. Now, when we talked about Egypt and ghosts way back when, your journey into the afterlife was not guaranteed, not in the Egyptian belief, and you need a lot of help. So it was a very serious business for them. And Wakotsi says the load would sink in sand. I believe aliens built the pyramids because there are portals underground. That is one of the theories. We will get to it. And it's, in certain ways, got reason behind, as we will explain. This research certainly turned up a number of things that were pretty funky, and I like them. So, Moketsi is right in many ways. So, here's the thing. After a period of time, you hit the third dynasty after Djoser. So, fourth dynasty transitioning to the true pyramid states where you've got Medum, Dashur, Giza, the ones we know of as the pyramids, which is fair. They're the biggest, the best, the most impressive. The last pharaoh of the fourth dynasty did not build a pyramid. And as you start going to the end of the sixth dynasty, you find that the pyramids are smaller, badly built, hastily constructed, and by the end of the sixth dynasty, there weren't pyramids. And it wasn't until you got to the Middle Kingdom, much later, that they actually built large pyramids again, but mud brick was the construction material, not stone, which is kind of weird. Endless Thoughts, welcome. You are just in time. Thank you very much for the like. We are very, very glad to have you on board. I hope that you're in fine form. And we are still on pyramids, of course, but we've gone to Egypt. We're just running through the timeline of the buildings, which essentially goes from not very good going up to the really good, which would make sense, as you can imagine. People get better if they do it. And then suddenly going not very good again. So what made them not as good at building pyramids? And there are, of course, several views to this, which we are going to cover. So after the Middle Kingdom and such, it got to a point where much of Egypt comes under the rule of the Kingdom of Kush, which nowadays we call Sudan. Okay? And in this time, the building did have a revival in terms of pyramids, and about 180 Egyptian-inspired royal pyramids were constructed, but not as good. You've definitely got a point where they really, really did it well. We are looking at ancient structures, but there are many. Egypt is full. We may have to carry this over into yet another live, because the pyramids have a huge amount, but there are quite a few other structures. You are absolutely correct. And some of them show that there are issues that we previously didn't know that may support how they built the pyramids or make it even weirder. One of those, of course, is the Sphinx. So we've got a number of issues that we have to do a fair amount of looking at. Now, the general feeling among archaeologists is that the pyramids were built pyramid shape because they represent the primordial mound. Now, immediately, we are going to have to say that might be true, but the problem is that's just Egypt. What about all the pyramids in other places? Did they all believe in a primordial mound? No. So, yes, but also possibly no, dependent on how conspiracy you want to go. We know that they were faced with a polished, highly reflective white limestone to give them a brilliant appearance, which is pretty cool, and that they were often referred to in ways that also were used to refer to solar luminescence. So the formal name of the bent pyramid at Darshur was the Southern Shining Pyramid. Pretty cool right off bat. Well, Quetzi, I'll be back. Do be back, and glad you've had to have had you thus far. Be good. We are awaiting for your return, of course. Now, the Egyptians believed that the dark area of the night sky around which the stars appear to revolve was the physical gateway into the heaven. One of the narrow shafts that extend from the main burial chamber in the Great Pyramid points directly towards the center of this part of the sky. This suggests that the pyramids may have been designed to serve as a means to magically launch the soul directly towards the abode of the god. All the pyramids were built on the west bank of the Nile, as the site of the setting sun was believed to be associated with the realm of the dead in Egyptian mythology. Endless Thoughts, you are quite correct as well. She says that there are all sorts of ancient buildings, walls, and structures all over the world, some dating more than 10,000 years before Christ, and that is correct. And we are going to try and find as many as we can and talk about them as we progress. So, absolutely, there are. And this is the real issue in many ways, because we're talking at least going back 10,000 years before Christ, which is a heck of a long time ago. So we have a number of different ones. Some of them are quite badly damaged, of course. So like in Abu Rawash, the most northerly pyramid in Egypt is mostly ruined. The pyramid of Djerefre, the son and the successor of the pharaoh Khufu. Originally, it's thought that it had never been completed, but nowadays, current archaeological consensus that it was, but not only was it the same size as the pyramid of Menkaure, so one of the largest in Egypt, but somebody came afterwards and flattened it partly. Why, we're not sure. Maybe to steal off building material. Of course, that's very possible. People did do things like that. We don't know, to be honest. Huge thanks for the heart there, Endless Thoughts. That is very, very kind of you. We know that the Giza Plateau has got the best ones. Yes. So the Great Pyramid, which is the Pyramid of Khufu, the Pyramid of Cheops, the slightly smaller Pyramid of Khafre, and the Pyramid of Menkaure, and then a number of smaller satellite evidences known as the Queen's Pyramids. And of course, as we just mentioned briefly, it is also where you will find the Great Sphinx. Now, one of the things which makes this kind of special in a way to me. Sadly, I was not able to go to Egypt, but my younger brother did. And he's one of these people that's incredibly rooted in the now. He has no art in his soul whatsoever. He is very much one of these people that if you can't see it, why believe in it? He works with computers. He's very serious. And he went and walked down the Emperor's Walk that actually goes up through to the pyramids. And he said that, and this is a quote from him, it was like stepping outside of time, that you got the feeling that if a Roman soldier in full regalia were to walk past you, you wouldn't blink. It would just appear normal. Now, from somebody that's not sort of poetic or artistic in any way, that's one hell of a statement. He also said it was bloody hot. Now, this place is, as we know, a great tourist spot, but you think you're tourists? It was popular back in Hellenistic times, where it was listed as one of the seven wonders of the ancient world by Antipater of Sidon. So it's been a tourist spot for centuries, which goes to show how old we're talking this is. It was considered to be an ancient wonder in times that we consider to be ancient. We know that there are a number of different types of pyramids that are out there. The layer pyramids, which aren't very well built, but are a kind of a layered step pyramid. You've got the ones at Abu Sir, where there are 14 pyramids that served as the main royal necropolis during the 5th dynasty. The quality of the construction is way inferior to those of the 4th dynasty, which shows either a decrease in royal power or a less vibrant economy, or that somehow they had lost the incredible skills. We do know that at the height of their skills, the tunnel going into Tutankhamun's tomb, which is one of the great pyramids, is so straight that in modern architecture, you could only make a tunnel that straight using a laser pointer. That's the only way you could do it that straight. If you used any other method of trying to make a straight line, you would get a curvature. So even if you tightened a string to make a line, you would get curvature. It doesn't have curvature. So they had skills, like serious skills, which is unbelievable. Thank you so much, Endless Thoughts. Your kindness is impressive tonight. I do appreciate that. 50% of our live goal complete right there from one good person. So thank you so much. And for all the likes as well. You are truly very, very kind and supportive. Now, as we progress with them, we go along to Saqqara. Now, Saqqara also have pyramids. The Pyramid of Djoser is one of them. Excuse me. I do apologize for that. And again, they are dressed stone, so better than the other step pyramids. And there is also a buried pyramid. Now, it's an interesting thing there that some pyramids are buried, and it's thought by serious archaeologists that this is because Egypt is very sandy, and as you know, sand shifts in winds, and they get some pretty good winds. So it's quite possible that the physical landscape there has changed um, quite severely. And to give you an idea how things can get lost in the desert, a previously unknown pyramid was found in Saqqara in 2008, which is like practically yesterday in terms of these things. And it's thought to be the tomb of Teti's mother. Um, and though it's quite a small one, it would have been about 14 meters high. Still, to lose an entire pyramid. Now, the most important pyramid field in Egypt outside of Giza and Saqqara is probably Dashur. And until 1996, the site was inaccessible due to its location within a military base, and so it just wasn't known in that regard, which is interesting. But there we found the southern pyramid of Snefru, known as the Bent Pyramid, which is apparently slightly bent. The first Egyptian pyramid intended by its builders to be a true smooth-sided pyramid from the outset. The early pyramid at Meidum had smooth sides in its finished state, but it was conceived and built as a step pyramid first, and then had the steps filled in and concealed beneath an outer casing of dressed stone. The bent pyramid was only a partial success, though, unique visually and imposing, and the only major Egyptian pyramid to retain a significant portion of its original smooth outer casing. So definitely one of the best ones to teach us a little bit about these pyramids. Now, the list goes on with all kinds of pyramids, some which were pretty impressive, and some which are little more than lumps these days. They weren't very well made, which kind of shows that they had a serious falling off in terms of how good they were at doing this, which is sort of sad. We very much like the idea that they got better and better and better and should have carried on, but they didn't. Now, how old are these things really? Well, they do vary in ages. The really good ones were built quite recently, comparatively, at a mere 4,500 years ago. And in 2013, they found a papyrus named the Diary of Merer, discovered in an ancient Egyptian harbor on the Red Sea coast, written around 4,500 years ago by an official with the title of Inspector, which documented the transport of white limestone from the Tura quarries along the Nile River to the Great Pyramid of Giza for the tomb of the pharaoh Khufu. So quarried blocks were then transported to the construction site. And how did they do this? So here is the official version. They transported them down the Nile. There is a now dried up riverbed that goes right alongside, that was a tributary to the Nile that would have been flowing around the time of these things being built. Once they got near enough, they then used wooden sleds with the sand in front of the sled wetted to reduce friction, allowing them to drag these giant stone blocks. Then, once at the construction site, they cut the stones. The finished blocks were then placed on the pre-prepared foundations. The foundations leveled by rough square levels, water trenches, and so on. Now, the first belief on how they built these things was that they used slaves. this has been since kind of disproved, and they say no, it wasn't slaves at all. It was paid labor and very skilled labor that built as workers. Nevertheless, doing it would have been pretty damn impressive. Now, types of pyramidology. So, what is pyramidology? Pyramidology is pseudoscientific speculations regarding the pyramids, usually the Egyptian pyramids, where they give their versions of what the pyramids were for, how they were built, and so on. So, generally not proper or at least unfounded theories that aren't hardcore proved in that regard. So, some pyramidologists claim that the Great Pyramid of Giza has encoded within it predictions for the exodus of the Hebrews from Egypt, the crucifixion of Jesus, the start of World War I, the founding of modern-day Israel, and future events, including the beginning of Armageddon. And this was discovered using what they called pyramid inches to calculate the passage of time through the solar year. It is a little bit of a stretch, but hey, I can't argue. So the main arguments that you get are meteorological. So theories regarding the construction of the Great Pyramids of Giza by hypothetical geometric measurements, numerological, that the measurements have esoteric significance and their geometric measurements contain an encoded message, pyramid power, that the pyramids are a specific geometrical shape that actually has some kind of special supernatural power by its shape. Now, they do say that if you put a razor blade inside a pyramid, a little one, it will sharpen the razor blade. And this is a theory that is used as proof that if you made a really, really big one, you could actually generate some kind of power. So, pyramid power. Then, of course, you have your pseudo-archaeological theories that say that they were not actually built as tombs for the pharaohs. They might have been used for that as well, but they were parts of long lost knowledge like anti-gravity technology, or that they were built by somebody other than the ancient Egyptians, the Aryans, the Hebrews, the Atlanteans, or possibly aliens. So let's dig into it. So meteorological pyramidology kind of dates to the 17th century with John Greaves, who was an English mathematician, astronomer, and antiquarian who took precise measurements of the Great Pyramid of Giza using the best instruments of the day. And he theorized that a geometric cubit was used by the builders of the Great Pyramid that showed that they had a very specific thing. Yes, they ought to have tools to build these, and we will get to tools because we have issues with tools as well. And not just tools, the means to push it around. As we've already said, pushing things on sand is an issue. So we absolutely are going to get to that as well. Now, Greaves himself didn't come up with the fancy ideas. He just measured them, that was his interest. But his stuff was used, was the best of its time, and they said that it suggests that they had a hidden mystical meaning. T.H. Shaw thought the Great Pyramid was a temple to Osiris. Isaac Newton created the concept of the sacred code to denote one of the two supposed instruments used to erect them. The Arab polymath Abd al-Latif al-Baghdadi studied the pyramid with great care, and in his account of Egypt, oh, by the way, he was writing in the 12th century, he praises them as works of engineering genius. And in addition to measuring the structures alongside the other pyramids of Giza, he also writes that they were surely tombs, though he thought that the Great Pyramid was possibly for Hermes the Great, who was kind of a god. So, in that regard, there was issues. He even went so far as to say maybe the pyramids predate the Great Flood, and maybe even the creation of Adam by God himself. I think that's pushing it a little bit far. Cutting bricks, yes, cutting bricks is part of the problem because while a number of the pyramids were made with bricks, actually, the Great Pyramids were cut stone, which is way harder. And of course, we're talking 6 to 10 ton blocks of stone. Now, in the mid 19th century, Friedrich Robert, studied the pyramids and linked them to what he called the golden ratio. And this led John Taylor in 1859 to note that the pyramids all seem to fit to the golden ratio, though actually the Great Pyramid of Giza itself is slightly off. So maybe that was just a hope. They also started to talk about how these things were designed specially for esoteric means. Again, yes, but no. Now, the interesting one, pyramid power. What is it? Now, pyramid power is supposedly this. The belief that the pyramids of ancient Egypt and the objects of similar shape can confer a variety of benefits. Among these properties is the ability to preserve food, sharpen or maintain the sharpness of razor blades, improve personal health. I remember there was a thing where people were said you should meditate inside a pyramid structure and it will give you a much better life, much healthier, and all kinds of, it was a trend for a while. They were also thought to function as a thought form incubator that they might trigger heightened sexuality and cause other effects. There is no official evidence of any of this pyramid power. Yes, they do. This is another problem, and they have worked out, admittedly, that not only are the trilithon stones up to 1,000 tons, if you tried to move the blocks around, it would take about 4 months and 1,500 people to drag the dressed stone up and onto the pyramid. which is a heck of a lot of work, no matter who did it. So you're sort of saying even just shifting the stone onto the pyramids was hard enough. Getting it that precise as well, yeah, it's kind of pushing the envelope in terms of human architecture a little bit, um, but maybe. Now we know that the French uh, author who was very much into pendulum dowsing, Antoine Bovis, developed the idea that small models of the pyramids can preserve food. Um, whether or not this works, um, hard to say. Bovis went inside the king's chamber at the Great Pyramid, and he saw a garbage can inside the chamber piled with dead animals that had wandered into the structure, and noticed that the small carcasses were not decaying, and decided that somehow it was the structure that preserved them. Um, but then he also said that the Egyptians used dowsing of all kinds, um, which he had no real proof of whatsoever. He just decided it. I'm not saying they didn't. I'm just saying that he came up with the idea that they did, uh, just like that, um, without any particular reasons to believe that. So, you know, um, he claimed to um, have successfully mummified small animals using special magnetic plates in a pyramid structure. And he said he was able to do this no problem at all. Uh, he also, along with the Czechoslovakian Karel Durbel, applied for a patent on the Pharaoh's shaving device, a small pyramid-shaped structure that maintained and improved the sharpness of razor blades. This is a genuine patent, so it was there. The method of maintaining the blades and straight razor blades sharp by placing them in a magnetic field in such a way that the edge lies in the direction of the magnetic lines. Um, he alleged that his device would focus the Earth's magnetic field and therefore cause this to work better. You orient your razor blades north to south by the use of a compass within this little boxy pyramid thing, and it will keep them sharp a considerable while longer. Is this true? I don't know. Theoretically, it is. Maybe if any of you is handy in that regard, build a small glass pyramid, align it exactly north to south, and give it a try. Huge thanks for the likes there, Nicole. So, is it true? Don't know. But pyramid power is something that is still believed in today. So take that as it is. Maybe it's true, maybe it isn't. Um, you can apparently even today in New Age magazines see advertisements for open metal poled pyramids large enough to meditate under. That's exactly what I was talking about. Yes, they did, and this is the problem. The engineering issues right off bat. Okay, so let's talk tools then. The first tools that are a problem are the ones used for moving the stone. So we're talking blocks of stone 6 to 10 tons each. Okay, we're not even talking about the big ones yet. All right. Now, right off bat, it's known that the kind of boats the Egyptians built and used were made of reeds. You go and put 10 tons on a reed boat and watch it sink fast. So the idea of shifting them down the Nile, I suppose, is technically possible, but damn it, it would be hard. Then, yes, you have a point. So, having dragged these huge stone blocks to the site where they were dressed, because they were not dressed at the quarry, that we know. Archaeological evidence shows where, because there is evidence of. Okay. Then you have to dress the stone. Dressing the stone with what? Well, the height of technology at the time there was bronze. How easy is it to cut stone with bronze? Not very good. Not at all. Now, let's assume you could do that. Now you've got this. Let's go smallest. 6-ton block of stone. Okay, maybe I can drag it across the sand to get the base layer. Great. Now, how do you lift 6 tons up a pyramid again and again and again and again, going higher and higher? Stacking the stones alone would be hellish. Now, the general archaeological official stance in this regard is that they used ramps. So you've got a steep ramp that you drag the stone up to the height. So you have to keep rebuilding the ramp to get it up onto the next level. So you cut the stone with your lacquer bronze, you drag it up this huge ramp onto the next level, and then position it so exactly, okay, that it's like right there, that the tunnels cut in are perfectly aligned, that every last detail is accurate right down within like a few centimeters tops. Yeah, I want to see you do that. Right off bat, that's difficult. So, assuming human enterprise alone, you're talking at about amazing amount of time, effort, difficult. I mean, it would be so hard to do this. So immediately your issues come up with serious problems. And maybe we can figure a way around how it might be done. But even today, if you were to build the Great Pyramid of Giza the way it was when it was made, with all its facings and everything, you're talking a hell of a lot of work. It would be a major construction challenge in the modern day, much less back then, right there. Does bronze erode quickly? No, it's pretty good in terms of corrosion and stuff, and it is kind of hard. It's not as good as fine steel, obviously. It's not bad. I would put it more or less um, a little bit below iron, but it's not great either. So if you're going to be trying to cut hundreds, mark you, of giant stone blocks, it's going to be pretty damned tough. You're going to go through a fair number of bronze tools. I mean, regardless. Um, Good question. Have we found ancient stone tools or bronze tools capable of cutting stone? Yes, there has been tools found, but again, um, the sheer amount of effort for something that big. I mean, it's one thing to cut smaller stones for a smaller building. But the pyramids are huge. The sheer size of it makes it massively difficult. So it's one of those situations whereby it is technically doable, yes, but is it likely? Well, if you've got no other option, maybe, but what about the other options? Because that's what we're interested in, are we not? So let's go on. So we know that Erich von Däniken made claims that the Egyptian mummies were preserved via pyramid power. Um, and this was part of uh, their religion to preserve uh, their pharaohs in some way, or possibly actually make them immortal. It's hard to say. We do know that in 2005, an episode of Mythbusters uh, did a test of pyramid power using pyramids built to the specifications found in pyramid power claims and reflecting the location of the king's chamber in the Great Pyramid of Giza. Several claims were tested, including does food preserve? Will a razor blade go dull? And so on. But the answer was apparently that none of these claims are provable. Maybe you need extra knowledge to properly do that. Um, but it seems we were not so lucky in that development. Now, um, so these are the construction mysteries. The exact method to move the stone blocks, long been a debate. Recent research identified a buried branch of the Nile, the uh, Aramat, which flowed near the pyramids. So you could apparently transport materials via boats. But yeah, I wouldn't want to do 6-ton blocks or more on reed boats. Ramps used to drag the stones to get into place. Even archaeologists say it's an ongoing discussion, which means we don't know either, but we don't want to admit to aliens. Some researchers say that the Great Pyramids are deliberately aligned to the stars in Orion's belt, and that what we call Orion was connected, in fact, by the Egyptians to Osiris and therefore to the afterlife. This is plausible. Okay, now they also say, what about the internal structures, the precise arrangement and purpose? Why all of these things? We know that in recent as 2023, a hidden corridor was discovered in the Pyramid of Giza that apparently nobody knew about, which is pretty cool right off bat. So even in the pyramids that we've known about for a long time, there's a whole crap ton of things that we don't know about. Hidden things under them. And of course, you've probably all heard about the tunnels under the Sphinx. It goes along with. The original appearance we know were a polished white, so they glittered. While not a pyramid, the Great Sphinx also connects because it also seems to align to the constellation Leo, and we know that Sekhmet, the lion goddess, was very important. Now, Endless Thought says that they had advanced crafting tools, proper cutting tools, and cranes and more. And that is one of the big theories, that they did have a much more advanced civilization than we know. And they were able to do much, much more. So that's the advanced technology theory, that they had technologies that really went ahead. And we know from a previous live that we did that one of the weird things found, for example, in Greece, which would have been about contemporary, is a fairly advanced computer for tracking all kinds of celestial bodies and eclipses and all of that. And it's alleged that this kind of high level technology was actually had by a number of people in that area, and the Egyptians were among the top ones. So, absolutely, there is a certain amount of truth to that. Or at least evidence that might suggest a truth to that. Let's correct ourselves just in case. So, advanced technology, certainly. And if they had it, maybe they could achieve a great deal more through that than we realize. Despite common misconceptions, they say now it was not slaves, but organized and skilled paid labor. Maybe. Progressing onwards, we see that there are four cardinal directions used, demonstrating advanced astronomical knowledge. This goes in with what Endless Thoughts is saying, that absolutely they were much more advanced. They had technology. They might have used the stars around the celestial pole, such as Thuban in the Draco constellation, to find true north. A new study suggests that Theta and Megrez in the constellation of Ursa Major were used to locate the meridian and determine true north. Whichever way they went, they used the stars and knew about them. They knew that the stars of Orion's belt align to the three major pyramids. That might be important. Um, Critics argue that this is the result of pareidolia, which is seeing patterns in random objects, and a misinterpretation of the data. They point out that the kink in the pyramid's alignment doesn't match the kink in Orion's belt. But again, we're back to that. No, you can't be right because you don't know, said by people who also don't know. Some researchers have proposed that the correlation is with the Cygnus constellation, the Northern Cross, but most say no, this has been refuted. But the Orion constellation is interesting because it's not only unique to the Egyptian pyramids, it's also found in the Mexican pyramids and China. So it seems that the star system is used by more than one culture, and there are several reasons why people say this is. Obviously, the official stance is that it's coincidental, not intentional copying. But that said, some people say actually the pyramids all over the world were built by the same people that went to different places and became integrated or became the different racial groups around. Is that true? We shall see. So the Orion correlation theory puts the pyramids almost exactly on Orion's belt. The third one is off, which either means that they got something slightly wrong, or it means it is pareidolia. We don't know for certain, which is problematic. We would like to know, but apparently we don't know. And really, this is a perfect example of a great deal of the mysterious architecture stuff where people say, look at it, it's amazing. This is what we think, but we don't actually know. great. Also, don't forget, the stars do move. So you have to kind of figure out where the stars were then, not where they are now, because that too will change your alignment and such. Now, they do say that the Great Sphinx of Giza is commonly accepted to be in the likeness of the king Khafre, who was credited as the builder as well, which means that it was probably built between 2,500 years before Christ. There's limited evidence giving provenance to Khafre, so it's still a topic of debate as to who actually did build the damned thing. There is water damage on the Sphinx, despite the fact that it is well away from the river or anything like that, which implies that at the time it was on or even partly in the river. So, did the river move? Was there another part of the river? Hard to say. It's definitely a question. But nevertheless, we're not really sure. Now, a proper sphinx in the place where sphinxes come from, as it were, are supposed to have wings. This sphinx doesn't have wings, which leads you to question, did it at a stage have wings? It seems no, it didn't. So what kind of a sphinx is this? And why is the Egyptian sphinx different? Is it connected to the constellation of Leo? We're not sure. Some say that you can send the construction of the Great Sphinx as far back as 10,500 BC, which is a heck of a lot further back than Khafre. They do say that it's possible the face was recarved at one point. We're not sure. We know that the nose has fallen off. And there may be other bits that it could have had at some time that it doesn't now. We're not sure. So the Great Sphinx is still a mystery. There is, however, possibly more tunnels under it, which implies that it wasn't just there for fun and games. There's more to it. It wasn't just to look at. Now, by and large, the modern view is the tombs were built, these pyramids were built as tombs for the pharaohs. That was what they were for. They were there to hold the mummies, they were for the afterlife, and for apparently the Egyptian belief, the continuation of their life after their death, representing the great mound that rose from the primordial waters and created the world as we know it. That's the standard view of what they are and why. They were very symbolic. They had all sorts of important bits going along with it. However, later pyramids, as in the pyramids built after the Great Pyramids, were not well constructed. The official view is that there was less material, there was less effort put in. There was a change to on construction methods where they stopped using the stone and started using bricks. Thank you for the likes there, Richie Richest. But the problem with bricks is that they don't stand up to wear and tear as well as stone blocks do. So that's why they weren't quite as good. They were made from baked mud bricks. There was a shift in burial practices, and later dynasties used different tomb forms to avoid things like looting and stuff like that. That's the official stance. It's a boring stance. We don't like it. Far better, who built the pyramids? One of those opinions, which is pretty damn cool as a matter of fact, says, well, there was a continent. Now, this is broadly what they call an Atlantis theory. Okay, why an Atlantis theory? Well, we all know the story of Atlantis. Massively powerful and advanced in technology, a great civilization that existed on an island, and then after a certain time, for various reasons, possibly pissing off the gods, um, the entirety of the island was destroyed and it sunk beneath the sea, and these ancient wise people fled to other places and took their technology, at least in basic wisdom, and tried to teach people. And they went all over the world. That's the structure of an Atlantis theory. Okay, now this is not Atlantis specific in this theory, but it's the same idea, if you will. It is an Atlantis theory, where they say that there was, in fact, a number of correlations because clearly there was a lot of information, knowledge, and sophistication. So this ancient civilization existed way, way, way back. But who were they and what happened to them? And it was discovered by studying pyramids around the world, and especially the Egyptian pyramids, that all over the world there is a lot that explains that there was at a time some worldwide flood or earth destruction. Okay. And at this time, this civilization, which did exist, was destroyed. Now, one of the famous theories calls this place Sunderland, a continent-sized stretch of land in Southeast Asia, located under the current southern reach of the South China Sea, that was inundated by rising sea levels after the end of the last ice age, caused all of these this place and these people to have to flee their continent. Now, they had sufficient technology that they could do that, and they buggered off to these other countries, taking with them their knowledge, which included the importance of the pyramid. But then what did they use pyramids for? And then they say that the pyramids used them for other things and took it with them. And when they got to Egypt and showed how to build them and what have you, people got it wrong and turned them into tombs. That wasn't what they were originally meant to be for. Now, what were they originally meant to be for? Well, they don't easily explain too much of this, except to say that they came from elsewhere and they were important because they had some kind of powers to them. So we're back to pyramid power in that regard. Okay, so theory 2. They were not built by people, they were built by aliens. Now, according to this theory, they absolutely had help. So the aliens came down, using their massive technology, was able to move the massively heavy stones and shift them into place, polish up the surfaces in ways that the humans couldn't have done, and develop this incredible thing because the pyramids themselves were somehow connected to the aliens and may have been something to do with a place to either manage their spaceships, refuel their spaceships, or even be a landing spot for the spaceships. So that's the set of theories for the aliens as architects. Then we have Atlantis being the actual. Now we're not talking an Atlantis theory, but the actual Atlantis, if it exists. So the Atlanteans predated the Egyptians. They held knowledge lost to us. This is the superior technology thing that Endless Thoughts was referring to. Um, they say there is no hard evidence to show this. Um, but again, you're still moving massive blocks, which is difficult. I don't know. What do you think? Do you have your opinions? There's more. And as we go along, remember, like, share, subscribe, add lots of gifties and all of the good stuff to keep us going. I hope you are enjoying all of this as well. But to continue, the pyramids were power plants. This also goes in connection with the alien view because it gives you a way to refuel your spaceship. But maybe it was power plants for other things as well, that they were not meant to be tombs. They were there to harness an unknown form of energy that um, frequently makes reference in regards to the fact that there are a number of chambers within the pyramids that are just empty. The magnetic capabilities of the granite used, which seems to imply that if you want your pyramid theory to work and what have you, you have to make sure that you make your mini pyramid out of something magnetic. Thanks, Christian, for the likes. I do appreciate that greatly. That is very, very kind of you. We need all the likes and such that we can get. Now, then, these are the main theories. As we move along, though, we need to look at so extraterrestrials, lost civilizations. Who comes up with these ideas? And if it's an alien, which alien? Now, we've got a number of possibilities in all of these regards. We see that Graham Hancock says that the pyramids are remnants of a highly advanced civilization destroyed either by a flood or an asteroid impact that we did know happened in the Younger Dryas period of the world. Some theories, like those of Scott Crichton, say that they were not tombs but recovery vaults designed to protect knowledge and survivors from a cataclysmic flood. Christopher Dunn say that they showcase your lost technologies, hidden structures. So we have within the pyramids the Hall of Records beneath the Giza complex, and you're not allowed in it. So does it contain lost hidden knowledge? Maybe some as some have even said, stuff from the destroyed Library of Alexandria that was saved and tucked away. Who's to say? Underground cities is another popular one because there are more tunnels under the pyramids that we are not allowed in, and we don't know what is down there. We would like to know, would we not? Um, Theories about the Sphinx being far, far older than normal mainstream estimates, and maybe not even being built by the Egyptians, but by peoples that came before them. What was the point of these monuments? It's a lot of effort just to stick a dead body inside and go, thanks. I mean, okay, He was the king, I suppose, but still. How did they lose the ability to make the really, really good pyramids suddenly? It seems sort of, I don't know, just somehow weird. Now, let's take this a step further, and now we're heading partly to the bits that I like, because after all, I'm deeply twisted in this regard. And we are going to talk about David Icke. Now, David Icke is either really, really, really good and knows something nobody else doesn't, or he is several biscuits short of a full box and should be avoided. So, let's talk about archons. Archons are reptilian lizard people, aliens of some kind. And David Icke is one of the main proponents of the reptilian theory, who claims that shape-shifting reptilian aliens control Earth, taking on human form, gaining political power to manipulate human societies. Now, if you spend any amount of time on TikTok, you will encounter large quantities of videos showing people where, for a brief moment, they blink and they've got slitty eyes or something like that. I mean, we've all seen tons of them. And this is exactly what David Icke is saying. Apparently, these creatures come from the Draco constellation, or possibly the Orion constellation. Or they are allies with evil aliens from the Orion constellation. They're aliens, some kind of snake type man or lizard type man. They can change their shapes. If you want to know more about them, interestingly enough, you will find them written on the emerald tablets, which refers to tablets that apparently were written by Thoth himself, the Egyptian deity who was apparently an Atlantean priest king. And this is one of the important themes, if you will, in David Icke's book, The Children of the Matrix, released in 2001, if you want to read it. There are not a lot of people that agree with David Icke. However, we do know that there are reptile people that turn up in a number of cultures, including Africa. Great Zimbabwe is connected with the Mokele Mbembe. We know that we have similar things in South Africa as well. So there's no lack of reptilian, alien type things believed around the world. We also know that the South Americans have Quetzalcoatl, the winged snake. So David Icke definitely has a whole ton of things about shape-shifting reptilians from the Alpha Draconis star system, the Draco star system, and so that you know who to watch, okay? The Merovingian dynasty in older times were all reptiles, just so you know. Thanks for those likes. The Rothschilds, the Bush family, the British royal family are all reptiles, just so you know. Quite a few of the Hollywood stars are reptiles, um, which also sort of touches on that kind of thing. It is said that there is a video that came out on March of 2013 showing one of the security guards for Barack Obama guarding his speech there, with very unusual features, sort of shifting slightly and what have you. Um, so the American president is 100% a reptilian, and apparently part of the huge argument against Trump at the moment, according to at least some of the modern theories, there's the reason they want him out is because he's not an alien, and they don't want him in there at all. Because he could upset the reptilians' control of things. Hey, it's Cole. Welcome back. So yeah, the reptilian aliens rule the world. Okay, so right off there we've got issues. The other side of the story, which is extraterrestrial as well, connected with what David Icke says. So, an interdimensional race of reptilian beings called the Archons hijack the Earth and are stopping humans from realizing its true potential. These same beings are actually the Anunnaki, deities from Babylonian creation myths, the Enuma Elis. They are the fallen angels, the Watchers, from the biblical Apocrypha, uh, a genetically modified human archon hybrid race of shapeshifters known as the Babylonian Brotherhood are what make up the Illuminati, and they manipulate global events to keep humans in constant fear so that they can feed on the negative energy this creates. Reference The Biggest Secret, which is one of David Icke's books, self published, just so you know. They live in caverns inside the earth. And as he says in an interview, when you go back into the ancient world, you find the recurring theme of a union between non human race and humans, creating a hybrid race. From 1998, I started coming across people who told me that they had seen people change to a non human form. It's an age old phenomenon known as shapeshifting. The base form is scaly humanoid with reptilian rather than humanoid eyes. The first human reptilian breeding program took place around 200,000 to 300,000 years ago, perhaps creating the biblical Adam. The third and latest 7,000 years ago, the hybrids of the third program, having more Anunnaki than human, currently control the world. This brotherhood, which forms the Illuminati, have priests and royalty. They came together in Sumer after the flood, but originating in the Caucasus. And this is why the Aryans were so important to a number of groups, including, incidentally, the Germans, because the Aryans are this hybrid. And we achieved our live goal. Huge thanks. You are such a star. You see, this is what happens when you get such fervent supporters as Endless Thoughts, and we appreciate her very, very much. Huge shout out to her. So there's a bit of a question exactly where these aliens come from. They might not only come from another star, but from another dimension. It's difficult to really say. However, the bit that matters, if I can find where I noted it, they This Babylonian brotherhood stand as the global elite, the prison wardens of the rest of humanity. It's part of the great work of ages, which they want to end with a microchipped population, a world government, and an Orwellian fascist state where freedom of speech is ended, a post truth era, because these specific creatures, whatever they really are, which is kind of hard to say, um, are here for a number of interesting things, which, if I can find, there was a list. Um, in case you're wondering, the number of people that believe him is a little bit limited in that regard. I will say that. Um, where did my list go? He had his turquoise period. He's quite a thing. I mean, even if you don't believe any of the stuff he says, David Icke is absolutely an amazing person uh, to research just because it's that interesting. Um, They feed on their negative energy. Uh, what's interesting in terms of it, which made me laugh a great deal, is the fact that they are not only here to feed on your fear and all the rest of it, they are apparently also particularly pedophiles. So Epstein Island, there you go. Those are all reptiles, apparently. Is it true? I don't know. I'm not one, so they wouldn't tell me. But then again, if I was one, I wouldn't tell you, would I? But I'm not one. Um, so, absolutely right off bat, it's a weirdness going on greatly. Um, we're talking hugely um, it goes into the left field, as they like to call it, pretty harsh. Um, Apparently, the lizard people uh, also enjoy the taste of human flesh. Um, so they're not here for us in any manner or form. They are definitely bad. Um, but yeah, it might be pushing it. It might not be. This is what we don't know. So we don't know how the pyramids were really built. Problem one. We don't know much. What we do know, and here we get into the bit that really goes off madly, but which is my favorite because it's my favorite theory, as you will know. Okay, so why were all the gods part animal? And the official thing is that it was there to show their specific characteristics, powers, roles, show their abilities. They represent different things. The gods were both animal and man, attributing great strengths. So you've got Sekhmet, who was the goddess of war with the lioness head, because she was ferocious. Anubis with the jackal head, because jackals are associated with the necropolis. So, of course, Anubis, the god of the dead. Thoth with the ibis or the baboon, because they can't tell you. Somehow, ibis is right. Why do they write? We don't know. However, Hathor with the cow, maternal, celestial mother, divine connection to nature, the best body of both words, bugger all of that. The best theory is because they were shapeshifters. Yes, we are talking werewolves. Um, the different creatures shown include, for example, Set, the trickster god, who could appear as a oryx, a bull, a crocodile, even as Anubis. We know that Sekhmet could turn to a lion, that none of these follow the European view of shape shifting where it's a curse or a problem. No, no, this was a strength. It was deliberate. It was a power that they had, and it might possibly show anthropomorphism within the shamanistic um, view of things that they developed out of, but we prefer the version where no, they were indeed shapeshifters, and shapeshifters control the world, but good ones in all kinds of ways. And these were the height of their abilities because they could do so as will. Um, Anubis the jackal, Bastet the cat, Sekhmet the lion, Aurus the falcon, their divine and immense power that allowed them to take over the world because of their double identity. Uh, we do know that therianthropy is something that turns up in so many different cultures. For those of you who don't know, uh, therianthropy is werewolf, but werewolves are wolves. A therianthrope literally means it can be any animal. So a person who can change into an animal, no matter what animal, is a therianthrope. Werewolves are also therianthroped, but specifically would be referred to as lycanthropes, lycaon, from the Greek word meaning wolf. Um, so that's your differences there. And I love the idea of there being suitable werewolves out there. And we know that this has turned up in a number of cultures around the world. So we know, for example, between 1521 and 1600, several men were sentenced to death in the Greek courts for lycanthropy. Um, and this has happened in a number of places. Um, some say that this shows that they are connected to evil. We know that when we looked at the witches of Ethiopia, um, they're connected to were hyenas. So therianthropes are magicians of power, which gives us the next theory of how they built the pyramids. They used magic because they were, of course, therianthropes. They were werewolves. They were able to harness powerful earth energies and therefore shift these giant stones with their magic, which of course we don't have because we're not werewolves. And if you were, it would be different. We know that the possibilities turn up all over the place. You've got shapeshifters that are cat like, shapeshifters like the Naga, which are serpent like, the Makole, crocodile like, and different countries have different specific um, therianthropes that fit to their countries so they can pass unseen. And there are all kinds of them. They have occasionally shown themselves to us mere mortals, and that's precisely how the Egyptian gods came about, because they came to see the power of their overlords who were werewolves and worshipped them. But after a time, it became necessary for them to hide away, and therefore, modern people only remember that maybe there was some kind of belief in things that really wasn't real, because we know shape-shifting doesn't exist, don't we? We know this because they told us not to believe it, because they're hiding while they rule the world. So, what is the connection between shapeshifters to pyramids? David Icke is right there with the reptilian one. So it seems that in Egypt, the top ones really and truly were the reptilian shapeshifters. But the other ones also got involved and did a whole lot. And it's connected to the Illuminati because Icke's theory shows that the reptilians, half human, half reptilian aliens that can shapeshift, form the Illuminati, an ancient secret society that can controls the world from behind the scenes and basically keeps humanity as fodder, if you will. Huge thanks for the likes from Springwell and for following. Always good to have new people on. So, the link is between the shapeshifters that actually rule the world and the pyramids, which they used as certain forms of power in some way. Of course, mainstream archaeologists say that there is no influence and there is no proof that shapeshifters built this. We would have known. There would have been record. Oh, you mean like the paintings on the pyramid walls? Yes, there are records. So maybe we need to look at this from a completely different viewpoint and see that the werewolves are among us. They rule the world and they are engaged in an endless battle against evil, which are embodied in the blood drinkers, mentioned in so many different countries and cultures, which we commonly call vampires. Go and read the Book of Jubilees and count how many times they talk about the evil of the blood pact. And you will realize that the vampires are the evil. And it is the werewolves that are protecting us. And we have the pyramids as proof. And am I talking absolute shite? Well, you'll never know. But this is what is said, and Egypt is one such place. But it is not the only place with pyramids or with very strange architecture that is well worth seeing, simply because it's just that weird. Some of it's mundane insofar as we can say that it's the kind of thing that is perfectly understandable. It can be built, but you look at it and you go, how the heck did these guys have that much skill when they were supposedly kind of primitive? And the answer is, we just don't know. And that we just don't know is going to become a common theme. But we're going to look at all the different places anyway, because damn it, it's interesting. So, having done Egypt, we need a completely different culture and country where there is strange architecture and possibly even modern conspiracies surrounding that. And we are going to jump around to another country in the next live. I don't know if there's a specific place you would like us to look at. There are many, as we have seen. We can absolutely look at all sorts of places. So if you have a preferred one, chuck us a comment, give us a say. You guys are too quiet. And we do enjoy so much when people throw comments. Agree, disagree, whatever. We like it, nevertheless. Um, but with that, we have found another issue where you have possible alien involvement, possible shapeshifter involvement, alignment with the stars in strange ways, and pyramids, always damned pyramids. Why are they building pyramids? And what are they telling us? Is there something that we've forgotten as a culture, as a people, as humanity? Is there something more to be known? Are the aliens involved? Roman temple. I like Roman. Roman it shall be. We will go to Italy for the strange architecture of Italy. Done and done. Tomorrow night. Same time. Same place. Let's check that out. Baalbek. Yes. See, Endless Thoughts is an instigator in my mad shenanigans. Just be warned. She has ideas. She's called Endless Thoughts for a reason. And then I run and find stuff out. But there will always be werewolves at the end of it. I guarantee it. Because pyramids and werewolves, be warned, it's out there. But with all of that, we have to say that we have concluded Egypt with its architecture at the moment. There are lesser things, minor things to still go back over, and we will absolutely do them as we go along. Specific small details, things found that don't make sense, ranging from fossilized watches to depictions of computers on the walls of Egyptian tombs. These things are out there. And one thing which nobody has managed to properly explain, to my knowledge, to date, but which we will get to, the fact that so many country and cultures out there, the depictions of the so-called gods or whatever, all seem to be carrying a handbag. What the hell is the handbag and why? And it turns up again and again and again. So we're going to have to get there at some stage as well. Why? Hopefully we will find answers. Because the Egyptians had them, the Mayans had them, Aztecs had them. We know several other cultures that we will get to will have them. Give your thoughts on the handbag. To hide their stash. Well, maybe there's a lot more to be said about the holiness of the Natal green. It could be so. It could be so. Certainly it's true. All the people that I know that indulge in it have a little handbaggy thing. So maybe you're right. And maybe you will only understand these great mysteries if you are a partaker of the green. Or maybe not. Don't do drugs, kids. It's bad for you. But with that said, we are going to end off for tonight. There is so much yet to know. So many things that we haven't got answers to. But we will find them if we can. Because after all, and yes, oh, you preempt me. That was wicked of you. But we love you for it. Have a very good night indeed. Sleep deep. Sleep sweet. But remember, sleep with one eye open. And keep a holy object near at hand, because you never know of the many, many things that go bump in the night. If you're not careful, they may well go bump for you.